Greetings from Seat 1A and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Singapore Airlines First Class on board the Boeing 777-300ER from Singapore Changi Airport to Hong Kong International Airport on my recent journey in June 2025. I'm going to be reviewing Singapore Airlines' most exclusive lounge, the private room, as well as the overall airport experience. Once we get on board, I'm going to be reviewing the seat and the cabin, as well as the facilities provided, the food and drink, including Singapore Airlines' Book for Cook facility, and of course, the facilities and overall flight experience. The journey from Singapore to Hong Kong clocks in at just over 2,500 kilometers and takes about 3.5 hours airborne. Our journey today begins at Singapore Airport Terminal 3, where, thankfully, my flight was departing from. I say thankfully, as Terminal 3 has the best lounges in Changi Airport. I arrived to the airport today by car, which meant I was able to use Changi Airport's first-class facility, exclusive for Singapore Airlines. You get there by making a sharp left just before you approach the usual drop-off point. Unfortunately, I didn't shoot any footage inside of here. It's a very exclusive area and I felt quite self-conscious getting my camera out. However, you come out of it and walk right next to the fast-track immigration for first-class passengers. This isn't actually any quicker than the regular immigration line, as Changi Airport is lightning fast. The main advantage, however, is that it drops you off here, right next to the Singapore Airlines lounges. Just take this escalator up, give your boarding pass to one of the lounge attendants, and you will be walked to the private room. The private room is exclusively for Singapore Airlines ticketed first-class passengers. Being a frequent flyer and having status with the airline, or indeed flying on a partner airline in first, will not get you access here. I took a seat in the dining area and as it was breakfast time, had my breakfast in the lounge. As you can see, the lounge was practically deserted when I arrived. Very few passengers have access to this lounge. To start, I ordered a ham and cheese sandwich. Don't let the basic description fool you though, this was delicious. To accompany it, as it was the morning, I had a double espresso, a coconut, and a sparkling water. Various champagnes were available, but it was far too early for that for me. Next up, I ordered the dim sum sampler. This was a small sample of 3 basic dim sums, but they were well made and tasty. Not the best I've ever had, but for an airplane lounge in the morning, it was perfectly fine. I didn't want to eat anything else, as I was saving my room for the plane. Having finished my meal, I had a quick rest in one of the lounge seats and ordered another coconut and sparkling water. But before too long, it was time to head to my gate. Now, my flight was departing from gate C2, which I mentioned earlier was in Terminal 3, and indeed, that's what it said on my boarding pass. However, when I got to check-in, I was informed that actually C2 was technically right on the cusp of Terminal 1, and that whilst I could walk, it would be much quicker for me to get the SkyTrain there. So that's exactly what I did. I hopped on the SkyTrain, which took about 2 minutes, and before I knew it, I was in Terminal 1. Technically, just. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, please subscribe. The check-in lady was correct. I got off the SkyTrain and gate C2 was approximately a 20-yard walk ahead of me. I timed it perfectly because when I arrived, they had already begun boarding. Security only took a minute, and as I walked to the plane, I got a great view of a Boeing 777-300ER that was going to take us to Hong Kong today. What a lovely day and what a lovely view of a plane. As I was travelling in first, I boarded straight away. Welcome to my seat for this journey, seat 1A, right at the front of the plane and on the left. As you can see here, the seat is an incredibly wide seat. You could seriously fit 2 people here. I didn't want to take too much footage of the cabin as there were other passengers, but fortunately, Singapore Airlines has a virtual cabin tour on their website. It's currently only available for the 777-300, but that's exactly the plane I was flying on today. So let's take a look around. As you can see, there is only 1 row in first class in a 1-2-1 configuration, meaning there will only ever be a maximum of 4 passengers travelling in the cabin. Today, there were 3 of us, and we had 1 seat empty. As you can see here, the seat comes with a large high-definition screen, and from this separate angle, you should get an impression of just how wide the seat is. Where you sit is where the leather is slightly patterned, and you have a huge amount of room to the right of you. Anyway, hopefully this gives you a sense of how the cabin is laid out. Let's go back to the real thing. This is one of the few downsides of travelling in first class. There are so few passengers and so many crew, it can sometimes be hard to take a video. As I settled into my seat, I ordered a pre-flight departure beverage of another double espresso and a sparkling water. The headphones in Singapore Airlines first class are by the company Bang & Olufsen. They were padded, noise cancelling, extremely comfortable and very good quality. The in-flight entertainment is controlled by this electronic touchscreen remote control. It's showing here the flight time remaining of 3 hours and 12 minutes as we had not taken off yet. One interesting quirk of a first class cabin is that it doesn't have overhead bins. This is because there is plenty of storage space under your seat to store your bags. This is so much more convenient. To the left of your seat, they had a little storage compartment, which is just large enough to put a mobile phone and connect it to the 2 USB-A style chargers. The seat and crew call buttons are manual buttons and are extremely intuitive and easy to understand. You also have a headphone socket and a personal light to the right. If you want to power something more powerful, like a laptop, there's also a universal power socket available to charge as needed. The in-flight pillow is a leather-covered pillow and is made of the same material that covers the seats. Extremely comfortable and high quality. I was grateful to see the crew hand out socks and slippers for the passengers, although, as the flight was only 3.5 hours, there was no amenity kit provided. I was happy to see that post-COVID, Singapore Airlines has returned to paper menus. Let's take a look inside. From now on, I'm going to be scanning the menu instead of taking a video of it. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this. My menu today was featured on the left, although I should note I didn't have the main course. I ordered this separately on the book for cook option, and I will show you this later. I was very impressed to see that Singapore Airlines today was offering not 1, not 2, but 3 champagne options, including crystal champagne. They also had a number of white wines and red wines available. They really did stock a full bar, despite the reasonably short flight we were having. If you fancy something to go with cheese, they had a 20-year-old fortified wine available, as well as numerous cocktails. If you fancy something stronger, a number of super premium spirits were available, and if you're not drinking at all, they had mocktails and soft drinks. For a caffeine hit, they had many different types of illy coffee available, including a Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee, which is a super premium brand and tasted delicious. If you're not a big coffee drinker, they also had numerous teas available, including various from the company TWG and also their own in-house tea selection. We pushed back from the gate after a 30-minute delay and they played their iconic safety video.
Attention, as we bring you through this important safety briefing and on a journey through Singapore. On behalf of Singapore Airlines, we hope you have a great time on board as well as in Singapore or anywhere else in the world we take you.
The taxi to the runway took a little bit longer than usual at about 15 minutes, but eventually we arrived at the runway and were ready for takeoff. I've got to say, that was one of the smoothest takeoffs I've ever experienced. It seemed like we were on the runway for so long before we eventually lifted. Once we'd taken off, we did effectively a turnaround and a fly past back over Singapore. It was such a clear day and I got a great shot of Changi Airport and Singapore generally. It's amazing to think we had taken off from there just a few minutes ago. I even got this very cool shot of a plane taking off after us. It looks fake, but I assure you, this is a real video, taken out of a plane window. It sounds a little bit obvious to say, but it was actually pretty cool to see how the footprint of Changi Airport pretty much exactly mirrors the map they do in the airport. It's very accurate. Just like that, we reached our cruising altitude and it was time for the meal service. After about 15 minutes, the crew came round to set up my tray table for my breakfast. To start, I had the fruit platter. This was a simple but delicious fruit platter consisting of high quality melons, kiwi, mangoes and blueberry, served on Singapore Airlines' excellent china. I guess in some way I can convince myself that I'm eating healthily today, despite what's about to come next. Speaking of which, next was 2 pastries from a pastry basket. I don't know if the camera fully does these justice, and you certainly can't taste them through the screen, but my gosh, these were absolutely phenomenal. For my next course, I had the bircher muesli, again served with various fruits and chopped almonds. This was nicely done and very tasty. This breakfast is going great so far. I paired it with an espresso and a Diet Coke, as it's the morning. The real showstopper though was the main course. This was ordered on the Book the Cook menu, which is something you can order up to 24 hours in advance. I went for the Australian Wagyu steak. This was cooked to perfection and melted in the mouth. For breakfast on an aeroplane, it doesn't get much better than this. Having finished my breakfast, I went to the toilets to check them out. What's most impressive about this cabin is that there are 2 toilets for a maximum of 4 passengers. Needless to say, you never need to wait. And on my side of the plane, there was only 1 passenger, so I effectively had this to myself. The toilets are nicely appointed and come with Lalique amenities. These smelled absolutely fantastic. Not only do you get hand wash, you also get a perfume, a facial mist, and a hand cream. I always put this on when I travel in Singapore first. As you can see, the toilet is decently sized, spotlessly clean, and really has a premium feel to it. This is different from a standard economy toilet. In addition to everything already provided, there was a drawer chocked full of amenities, from toothbrushes to shavers to shaving foam to combs, everything you could possibly need on a 3-hour flight. I settled back into my seat and saw we had just over an hour and a half remaining. To say this flight is going by quickly is an understatement. All there was to do at this point was relax in my seat, watch a film, and take in that amazing view out of the 2 large windows for my seat. Seriously, if there's a better way to travel than spending an hour and a half looking out of this view, watching a film on your widescreen TV, and just enjoying the overall seat and cabin, I don't think it exists. With about half an hour to go, the captain came on the intercom to tell us we would be landing shortly. As we approached Hong Kong, again, the day was so clear and I got some amazing shots of the islands down below. I was also able to get some shots of the outer Hong Kong areas that are a bit further away from the central island. That said, I did get a very brief glimpse of central Hong Kong and the incredible IFC Tower, which is over 118 stories tall. Anyway, time to land. The landing was a bit bumpier than the takeoff, although that's to be expected. Taxi to the gate took a bit longer than usual, again at about 15 minutes. I've got to say, this journey has unfortunately been plagued by a lot of very small delays, which taken together meant we landed about an hour later than scheduled. Not the end of the world for me, but if you're on a tight schedule, it would have been an issue. After 15 minutes, we arrived at the gate, and as I was in seat 1A, I was the first to deplane. As I walked off the plane, I got one final shot of a Boeing 777-300ER that had taken us to Hong Kong. Immigration in Hong Kong took no time at all, and I was out and on my way to the train. The train is right next to the immigration exit, and so I boarded approximately 2 minutes after clearing. The train from Hong Kong Airport to the city centre costs about $13 and takes 21 minutes. This is such an efficient way to get into town. Overall, a perfect end to a great journey. As my final thoughts, notwithstanding the delay, which really wasn't an issue for me, this was a 5 out of 5 star flight. Opinion is mixed as to whether the private room is the best lounge in Singapore or just the best Singapore Airlines lounge, but it's certainly the latter and a great way to start your flight. Once we eventually took off, the journey was smooth from start to finish. The food and drink were truly excellent, starting with these amazing pastries that still make my mouth water thinking about them now, to the Australian Wagyu steak. Really, having steak of this quality for breakfast on an aeroplane is such a treat. The seat was incredible. So much room, even for a reasonably big guy like me, and the view out of the windows was phenomenal. Landing into Hong Kong was smooth, and my journey to the city centre took no time at all and was very cheap. This is a great way to experience Singapore Airlines first class, and probably the best way to travel between Singapore and Hong Kong. Highly recommended.